Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network. I'm your host, Megan Shoup. You can follow me on Twitter at Megs08DFS. And we are back for another edition of Sibling Showdown. And we are breaking down the game of the week for the 1 o'clock slate, the Detroit Lions versus the Dallas Cowboys. And I'm, of course, joined by my sibling, my brother, Steve. Steve, how are you doing? Are you ready to talk Showdown today?
I'm doing good. And yeah, looking forward to this game, the return of Dak.
That's right. That's right. It's the return of Dak. They're in Dallas. Let's give it a quick little game summary preview here. Dallas is favored by 7. The total sits at around 49 points right now. So they're expecting points right now. Basically, so far this season, Detroit has been a recipe for points in a game. Yeah. And I know we both, drafted Dak a lot in best ball and are high on Dak. So, I think we are high on him for his first game back. I don't think they would have rushed him back, with the way Cooper Rush was playing and holding down the fort. So we have to believe he's healthy, and I think we're going to operate under that. But what other previews do you have, or how do you see this game playing out?
Yeah, no, I see this game. I think we need to remember a couple things. One, Dallas was the highest scoring team, highest scoring offense last year. They've not been this year because they've had to be much more run heavy, not throwing for a lot, slowing the game down. But Dak is back, and they're facing a defense that everyone's been able to really tee off on. So I like them to get back to their ways of last year. And on the flip side, we've seen Detroit put up points and put up yards. It's not always been efficient. It's not always been enough for fantasy, but they've had some big fantasy days and even against some good defenses. They got a lot of points on the Eagles week 1. We know the Eagles is one of the top defenses in the league. So yeah, I think Dallas's defense is much, as good as anyone in this league, but Detroit should be able to score. They're getting Amon-Ra is back. DeAndre Swift, it seems like he's going to be back, and of course Hawkinson and some of the other weapons. So, yeah, I think this can be a good game, and I would not be surprised if this hits the over.
Okay. And so even with Dallas's very stout defense and pass rush, you still think it probably is, especially playing from a negative game script. When we look at the game Thursday night, that Detroit could put up some points or give us some fantasy goodness on that side.
Yeah. They might be more doing it all in the second half, but right. At the end of the day, that'll be fine.
That counts. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and we've also seen Dak going back to last year. He had games where he put up 30 fantasy points and didn't play the full game, similar to what we've seen from Josh Allen a couple times this year, because their offense would get so efficient early on. They score like 5 touchdowns in the first half or first 3 quarters, and then he's just done. So even if that happens, again, we're talking a showdown here. I think Dak's fine for like main slate and stuff like that, but in a showdown, you absolutely need that player. So
right.
I'm all aboard that and not worried about game script and game flow too much.
Okay. Well, I'm going to quickly explain what we're going to be doing. We're going to go over to Run the Sims. We use Run the Sims. They're a great daily fantasy tool site, and you should check them out as well. But they have all sorts of tools that you can use, but we use the DIY simulator. And what you can do is customize the projections or inputs as to the way you think the game will go. And so we did that beforehand. Also, just another reminder, there are showdowns for every basically game on the slate, on the Sunday slate. And of course, we play all the primetime showdowns and stuff. But not many people cover these game of the week type showdowns, and there's still some good prize pools out there. I believe for the Dallas Detroit game is $10 contest, top prize of $20,000. So you can still have, go chase some good prizes and, play some of these game of the week showdowns that there's not as much content for. So we hope we can provide some content. We use Run the Sims to do that. And so we're going to go over to Run the Sims right now, look at what we put in for the projections, and then we'll run the Sims and see what it says and then build a lineup. How's that sound?
Sounds good.
Okay, so let's head over there. We are over on Run the Sims, and I'm going to take a look here. We didn't change a whole lot. We bumped the rush rate down for both teams, right, Steve?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Slightly.
Just a quick on my perspective of that, I do think the Lions will be playing from behind, so I think they will need to pass a little bit more. And from Dallas side, it was projected around 50-50 because that's what they've been doing, but I just think with Dak back, they're going to throw a little bit more. So we didn't bump that one down as much, but
right. We bumped that to 46. Yeah. Okay. And then we slightly bumped up DeAndre Swift's receiving market share, but didn't much, do a lot to the Lions projections. Kind of agreed with the way they were. As far as Dallas, why don't you explain what we did with Dallas, the 3 Dallas receivers, Lamb, Gallup, and Brown?
So yeah, just because no Brown's played pretty well,
Yeah.
his and Gallup's projections were pretty similar. We wanted to get a little bit more of a gap to Gallup, especially with Dak being back. Obviously, Dak has a lot more history with Gallup as a starter, and then we also the other big thing is we bumped Gallup's touchdown percent up a little bit, and no Brown's down a little bit. Just again, when I think they get in the red zone, and of course Gallup can get some deep shots from Dak. We've seen that before, so I just like doing that. And then we also changed the completion, the catch rate for these 3 guys, just because I think again with Prescott being back, you're just going to see more accurate passing, giving them more opportunities to get completed catches.
Sure. One question, Steve, before we run the Sims. I noticed we have Gallup's projection because we tweaked it higher than Brown's, brought Brown's down, Gallup's up. It's higher than Lamb's now. Do we want to bring Lamb's touchdown market share up and just bump down somebody else? As far as receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, I could see maybe having Lamb and Gallup about the same, but it's tough. There's not a clear.
I mean, is Tolbert even really playing much?
No.
I'm going to just take it away from him. I'll take it away from the losers and not mess around with anybody else here. We'll give them 1%. Okay, so you just have to make sure all the inputs equal 100%. They do. We kind of explain what we changed. We kept the spread as it is. We do expect points in this game. And then you click run the Sims, and it'll give, in a minute here, optimal results. It'll give percent a rate to be used in the flex, in the captain, and total. So I'm going to read really quick for the captain. Actually, Amon-Ra is the highest at 17%. Dak Prescott at 16%. CD Lamb at around 12%. And then in that 7% range, we have Goff, Josh Reynolds. Right under that then is, Swift, Gallup, Hawkinson, the running backs, that kind of stuff. So talking through that, and obviously the total rate is kind of in order here with Dak, Goff, ASB, Lamb, Brett Maher, the kicker, which I do think makes a lot of sense in this game, Reynolds, Swift, Gallup, Hawkinson, and the Dallas running back. So with all that said, who is your favorite captain, Steve?
My favorite captain is Lamb or Prescott.
Okay.
Amon-Ra is right there also, but I like them to get this passing game going. We've seen Lamb be so close with Cooper Rush, and it's now his target. If his target share remains similar, the total target should be much higher. They should also be much more efficient targets and more downfield targets. So it's all coming up roses. And as we see, a lot of times, unless Dak really spreads it around to 4 or 5 different receivers, and nobody gets, Lamb wouldn't get the bonus or something, receivers typically are the better captain play than quarterbacks. But that's why I think Dak could be, if he puts up 350 and 3 or 350 and 4, then yeah, he could very well be the captain.
Okay.
So those are my guys right there.
Yeah, I don't think, kind of like we talked about pre-show, I don't think we need to get Q here. I really like those 3 captains as well. Prescott, Amon-Ra, and Lamb. I really think they all have a chance for huge, huge ceiling games. And yeah, that means you're going to have to go cheap somewhere, but we like kickers, I think that's in play. And you can find ways to get interesting. And that's what we're going to do next. Just to make a point though, before we go over to DraftKings, you can, if you have a subscription to Run the Sims, you can click custom lineups, and it actually gives you lineup suggestions. And after running optimals 10,000 times or 20,000 times, it simulates the game based on the projections and then kind of gives different lineup suggestions. We're not going to do that because that is behind the paywall, but if you get a subscription, you would be able to do that. But it was great checking out these optimal results. So I'm going to go over to DraftKings now. Steve, while I'm doing that, any concerns about rust with Dak or coming off an injury from Dak? I think you and I are both so high on him. I just have to ask the question,
No, I think it obviously helps that it's at home. I think it helps that it's going to be a controlled environment. It's not like he's going to have to deal with weather, a slick ball or anything like that with that hand. That that might not be 100%. And then again, Detroit's defense, it's just been so bad. We've seen them. We've seen Carson Wentz put up big numbers on them. We've seen Geno Smith put up big numbers on them. Not exactly the rogues gallery of stud quarterbacks in the league. So, I think, are there ways that this game just slows down? Maybe Detroit doesn't push back at all and just total blowout, or, Dallas defense gets a couple touchdowns. Look at last night's game where Kyler didn't have to do anything because, the Cardinals defense got 2 touchdowns. Now,
Right.
I don't think them getting 1 touchdown or I don't think in a showdown, obviously, I think you can play Cowboys defense in a Dak lineup. Just because, again, how good that Cowboys defense is. But yeah, I don't worry too much. And again, we're talking just from a raw points showdown perspective. I would be shocked if Dak is really below like 20 points. And at that point, you probably need him in your lineup, even if it's not in the captain.
Right. I mean, Dallas defense is a great point, and game script is a good point to talk about. There could be a lot, like you said, that Lions get in garbage time. We're over on DraftKings now. We're going to build a lineup together. Before we start, is there a certain line of construction you like best, like a Dallas onslaught or 4-2 Dallas, or more like a 3-3? Is there a certain line of construction you're kind of trying to hope to target?
Yeah. So one thing that I do like about this, the pricing here is you definitely have the pay up options, Swift, and then the 2 quarterbacks and 2 top receivers. But the Gallup is at a fair price at 7,200. Guys like Hawkinson and Schultz are very reasonably priced. No, Brown's reasonable price. The other, Lions receivers, it looks like Chark will be out. Not official yet, but that's where it's trending. So, Josh Reynolds is at a fair price, 6,200. So I like that you got some really good prices. I think both kickers are going to be in play. I think obviously Dallas's defense is in play. As for like super cheap options, maybe, the Hendershot Ferguson, even though
they were
Ferguson's
running,
actually got priced up. But
I was going to say they were running, multiple tight ends were out there. So even with Schultz back, maybe these guys proved enough, right?
Yeah, though I do wonder if some of that goes away with Dak being back at quarterback, because they're not going to be as run focused. And then, the ultimate cheap plays, guys like Tolbert or a Tom Kennedy, if assuming Chark's out.
I was going to say, if Chark's out, does that put Kennedy in play? Because, geez, he's only $200.
Well, both Khalif Raymond and Kennedy, I mean, who knows? Raymond got 7 targets in that Patriots game, but Kennedy's gotten some work. So, we'll have to see. Maybe there's some.
I guess he did 2 weeks ago, but not really anything in the Patriots game. So it was Raymond. What's Raymond priced at? Just so we 2,800. Like, so that's a good value too.
But I also don't know if you need to go down that far, because, like I said, it's not. None of these guys are monstrally priced. We don't have that. Like
Josh Allen price.
Josh Allen, which
is what we did last week. Yeah.
It was a terrible game, but that Chargers Broncos game, you guys like Herbert and Eckler, if you're playing them in the captain, it was like 17, 18K or above. And, I think Lamb, even in the captain, is only 15.6.
Yeah.
And, I'm not going to play Swift in the captain. He's the most expensive one.
All right, well, let's build it. Let's see. I'm going to let you go first, and let's build it. We're not going to fill it out all the way, but let's build a lineup almost all the way. So I'll let you start.
Well, I would go right there with CD Lamb in the captain.
I like it. I like that a lot. This isn't very creative. We've been talking about him. We're not afraid to go to him the first week. I'm going to pair him up with, and you don't always have to have this correlation, but this week I think it makes sense. I'm going to go Dak Prescott, right, to feed him all those targets.
All right. I will go with Cowboys defense. I think they deserve a lot of looks here, and it gives you a nice
Yeah.
solid salary saver. They're not super cheap, but
I think they
enough.
could rack up some sacks against the statue
Yeah.
of Jared Goff. So, and the game script, right? I mean,
Yeah.
we think they're going to be throwing a lot the second half. Well, look out. Here comes Micah Parsons. I'm going to go, with the pass rush. He's going to have to get the ball quick. I think that's going to Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's had, the bye week to get healthy. That puts us at 4,900, but I don't think that's bad. So I'll let you make the last pick and see where that leaves people.
It's from all accounts, he's back, practiced fully this week, and he gets his quarterback back. So I'm going to go Dalton Schultz. I think Schultz could, we saw what he did these last 2 years in a starting role with the Cowboys, especially last year with Dak. So I like the idea of this kind of matchup.
Okay. Who is the kicker for Detroit? Just out of curiosity, is it going to be the Badgley or they've got two listed?
Yeah, I think it's. I'm not sure if it's.
Well, pay attention to that because that'll be important. I think kickers are always in play. It looks like right now they're both in. So pay attention to that. That's something to look, pay attention for. But I think there's a lot in this range. I think you could go to Khalif Raymond if Chark is out. You could look at any of the kickers that are interesting there. Or you could leave salary on the table and, do somebody way lower, and just get really, really unique. So I think this gives a lot of flexibility, whether it ends up being a 5-1 Dallas onslaught or a 4-2. I like it a ton. And I think it's a great kind of starting point. And so I'm going to use that as my starting point. And I will see you guys in the lobby. Any final thoughts on this game, Steve?
Yeah. The one thing I'll say is I know he's so talented, but it just feels like DeAndre Swift is a bit of a trap here, not getting full workload, and somehow he's the highest praised guy. So we'll see.
That's kind of a fade for you.
Yeah, that's probably just a total fade, even in the flex. As explosive and as fun as he is to watch, I just can't. I don't think I can get up there.
Yeah, I agree. Did he practice in full this week, or has it been partial?
Yeah, it's been a limited capacity. Most reports I've seen is that he's probably going to come back and play some, but it's like, boy, I mean, Jamal Williams was sharing time with him. Craig Reynolds is going to share some time. He's explosive. We saw it in the Washington game. He almost got there on basically like 8 touches, including 2 big ones, but it's just so tough at that price.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that. All right. Well, we are going to get out of here. We appreciate you for joining us for another episode of Sibling Showdown. Be sure to subscribe, like this episode, subscribe to the Fanspeak Network. Check out our work on fanspeak.com. We put out multiple articles a week about daily fantasy, underdog, and things like that. So we're constantly talking daily fantasy all week long on fanspeak.com. And of course, check out Run the Sims if you'd like to get a subscription to be able to simulate these showdowns or classic sites similar to what we did on the show. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Good luck if you play this showdown slate, and we'll see you next time.